The rain hammered against the glass windows of the Silver Spoon like bullets, each drop a reminder that some storms never pass. They just wait for the right moment to destroy everything you've built. Emma Martinez stood behind the hostess stand, her reflection ghostly in the rain-streaked window, and wondered if tonight would be the night her world finally shattered completely. She didn't know that in exactly 47 minutes, a man in a $5,000 suit would walk through those doors and rip apart everything she thought she knew about her life. Emma smoothed down her black server's apron for the 100th time that evening, her fingers trembling slightly. The fabric was worn thin at the edges, just like her hope. At 26 years old, she'd been working at the Silver Spoon for 3 years, 3 long years of fake smiles, aching feet, and dreams that seemed to slip further away with each passing day. "Table 12 needs water," barked Gerald, the floor manager, as he swept past her. His cologne was too strong, his attitude too sharp. "And stop daydreaming. We have standards here." Standards. The word almost made Emma laugh. The Silver Spoon was Manhattan's premier fine dining establishment, where CEOs closed million-dollar deals over aged wine and senators whispered secrets between courses of caviar. The standards Gerald spoke of applied only to the guests. The staff were invisible, replaceable, mere shadows serving the elite. Emma grabbed a crystal pitcher of ice water and made her way through the dining room. The Saturday evening crowd was in full force, women dripping in diamonds, men checking stock prices on phones that cost more than Emma's monthly rent. She moved between the tables like a ghost, refilling glasses, removing plates, existing without truly being seen. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She already knew what it was. Another text from Mercy General Hospital. Another bill. Another reminder that her mother's cancer treatment was bleeding her dry, one chemotherapy session at a time. Past due notice, $4,872. Please contact our billing department immediately. Emma's vision blurred for a moment. Between her mother's medical bills, her own student loans from the nursing degree she'd had to abandon, and the rent on their tiny apartment in Queens, she was drowning. She picked up extra shifts whenever possible, worked doubles until her feet bled into her shoes, but it was never enough. It would never be enough. "Miss?" "Excuse me, miss." Emma blinked, realizing she'd been standing frozen beside table 7. An older woman in a Chanel suit was looking at her with barely concealed annoyance. "I'm so sorry," Emma said quickly, forcing her customer service smile back into place. "How can I help you?" "The Dover sole. Is it wild caught or farmed?" As Emma rattled off the answer she'd memorized from the menu briefing, her eyes drifted to the entrance. The doors had just opened, and a gust of wind sent rain spraying across the marble floor. A man stepped inside, shaking water from his charcoal-gray overcoat. Emma's breath caught. She'd seen wealthy men before, the Silver Spoon was full of them, but this man was different. He moved with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no, never waiting for anything, never doubting that the world would bend to accommodate him. He was tall, with dark hair styled perfectly despite the storm, and a jawline that belonged on a movie screen. But it was his eyes that held her attention, cold, calculating, the gray blue of winter ice. Alexander Donovan. Emma recognized him immediately. Everyone in New York knew Alexander Donovan, even if only from the business pages and society columns. The 34-year-old CEO of Donovan Industries, heir to a fortune that spanned real estate, technology, and investment banking. Worth an estimated $12 billion. Eligible bachelor. Ruthless businessman. Known for destroying competitors and collecting companies the way other men collected watches. And according to the tabloids, a complete bastard. Gerald practically fell over himself, rushing to greet Donovan. "Mr. Donovan. What an unexpected pleasure. We don't have you in our reservation system for this evening, but of course, we'll accommodate you immediately. Your usual table." Donovan didn't even look at Gerald. His eyes swept the dining room with the disinterest of someone surveying property he was considering demolishing. Whatever's available. I'm not staying long. Of course. Emma. Gerald's voice cracked like a whip. Table 15. Now. Table 15 was in Emma's section, a corner booth with a view of the city lights, reserved for VIP guests. Emma felt her stomach tighten as she grabbed a menu and led the way. She could feel Donovan's presence behind her like a cold front, frost spreading in his wake. She set the menu down carefully. "Can I start you with something to drink, Mr. Donovan?" He sat without thanking her, already pulling out his phone. "Macallan 25. Neat." Emma nodded and turned to go. "And tell the kitchen I want the ribeye. Rare. Not medium rare, not Pittsburgh rare, actual rare. If they overcook it, I'm sending it back, and someone's getting fired." Emma paused, her spine stiffening. The way he said it, So casual, so matter-of-fact, as if threatening someone's livelihood was no different than ordering a side of vegetables. "I'll make sure the kitchen knows," she said evenly. "You do that." For the next 30 minutes, Emma served Alexander Donovan with the same professional courtesy she gave every guest, but something about him set her teeth on edge. He barely looked at her when she brought his whiskey. Didn't acknowledge her when she delivered his steak. When she asked if everything was satisfactory, he waved her away like she was an annoying insect. She'd dealt with rude customers before. The silver spoon attracted plenty of entitled rich people who treated service staff like furniture, but Donovan was different. His dismissiveness wasn't just rude, it was systematic, practiced, as if he'd spent his entire life training himself not to see people like her as fully human. Emma was refilling his water glass when it happened. Her hand, tired from hours of carrying heavy trays, trembled slightly. Just a fraction of a second, a tiny slip, and ice water spilled across the pristine white tablecloth, splashing onto Donovan's tailored suit pants. Time seemed to stop. Donovan looked down at the water spreading across his lap, then up at Emma. His expression didn't change. No anger, no surprise, just a cold, dead calm that was somehow worse than screaming. "I'm so sorry," Emma gasped, grabbing her cloth napkin. "I'll get you. Don't touch me." His voice was quiet, lethal. "Step back." Emma froze, the napkin clutched in her shaking hand. Donovan stood slowly, water dripping from his pants. The entire restaurant had gone quiet, every eye turning toward the corner booth. Emma could feel Gerald rushing over, could sense the disaster unfolding like a car crash in slow motion. "Mr. Donovan, I am profoundly sorry," Gerald started. "Save it." Donovan's eyes never left Emma's face. "What's your name?" "Emma Martinez," she whispered. "Well, Emma Martinez, let me tell you something about competence. You're clearly lacking it. Whatever pathetic excuse you have for being so clumsy, personal problems, exhaustion, sheer stupidity, I don't care. When you work in an establishment like this, you leave your drama at the door. You perform your job properly, or you find another line of work." Each word was precisely delivered, surgical strikes designed to cut deep. Emma felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She would not give this man the satisfaction. "Maybe if you paid attention to what you were doing instead of daydreaming about whatever minimum wage problems occupy your simple mind," Donovan continued, "you wouldn't be such a walking disaster." Something inside Emma snapped. Maybe it was the exhaustion from working 3 double shifts in a row. Maybe it was the weight of her mother's medical bills crushing her chest. Maybe it was the sheer injustice of standing there while this billionaire, this man who probably spent more on his watch than Emma would earn in 5 years, treated her like garbage for a simple accident. "You're right," Emma said quietly. "I made a mistake. I apologized. But you know what? At least I have an excuse. I'm tired because I work 80 hours a week trying to pay for my mother's cancer treatment. What's your excuse for being cruel?" The restaurant went completely silent. Gerald's face turned purple. "Emma, you're fired. Get out now." But Emma wasn't looking at Gerald. She was looking at Donovan, and for just a moment, just a fraction of a second, something flickered across his face. Surprise? Shame? It was gone so quickly she might have imagined it. Then his expression hardened again. "Gerald's right. Someone with your attitude has no place in service. Take your sob story somewhere else." Emma yanked off her apron and threw it on the table. "Keep the tip," she said bitterly, then turned and walked away, her vision blurring with tears she refused to shed until she was out of sight. She grabbed her coat and purse from the staff room, ignored Gerald's continued screaming, and pushed out into the rain. The storm had intensified, and within seconds she was soaked to the skin, but she didn't care. She walked blindly, rage and despair warring in her chest. She'd just lost her job. Her main source of income. How would she pay for her mother's treatment? How would she pay rent? The questions circled her mind like vultures. Emma ended up at the 24-hour diner 3 blocks from her apartment, shivering in a corner booth with a cup of coffee she couldn't afford but desperately needed. Her phone kept buzzing with texts from her co-worker Sarah, who'd witnessed the whole disaster, but Emma couldn't bring herself to read them yet. She pulled out her wallet, counting the crumpled bills inside. $43. That was all she had until what? She didn't have a job anymore. Rough night. Emma looked up. The diner's owner, Marcus, was looking at her with kind eyes. He was a 60-year-old veteran who'd always treated Emma with grandfatherly warmth. "You could say that," Emma said, her voice cracking. "I just got fired for telling the truth to a rich asshole who deserved to hear it." Marcus chuckled. "Good for you. Most people spend their whole lives biting their tongues. The coffee's on the house, sweetheart. And whatever else you need. His kindness broke something loose inside Emma, and the tears finally came. She cried silently, her shoulders shaking, mourning not just her job but everything it represented. Her ability to take care of her mother, her dignity, her hope for a better future. She didn't know that at that exact moment, Alexander Donovan was sitting in the back of his Bentley, staring at the water stains on his pants and thinking about a waitress with fire in her eyes who'd called him cruel. She didn't know that her words had struck something deep inside him, something he'd thought was dead years ago. And she had no idea that the envelope he'd left on table 15, the one Gerald would find when clearing away Donovan's unfinished meal, would change everything. Emma didn't go home that night. She couldn't face her mother, couldn't walk into their cramped apartment and explain that she'd thrown away their lifeline because of pride and a moment of reckless honesty. Instead, she sat in Marcus's diner until 3 in the morning, nursing cold coffee and staring at job listings on her cracked phone screen that might as well have been written in another language. Experienced servers wanted. Minimum 5 years fine dining. References required. References. Emma almost laughed. What was she supposed to put? Fired for insulting a billionaire customer who deserved it. Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Sarah, it was a notification from her bank. Your account balance has fallen below $10. Overdraft protection has been activated. Emma closed her eyes. The overdraft fees would cost her $35 she didn't have. It was a special kind of cruelty, how being poor cost extra money. Emma, honey, you should go home, Marcus said gently, refilling her cup one last time. Get some sleep. Things always look different in the morning. But when morning came, things looked exactly the same, only worse, because now Emma had to face her mother. Rosa Martinez was sitting at their tiny kitchen table when Emma finally dragged herself home at dawn, still wearing her clothes from the night before. Her mother had lost most of her hair to chemotherapy, but she'd wrapped a colorful scarf around her head, and despite the gray pallor of her skin and the way illness had hollowed out her cheeks, her eyes were still sharp. You didn't come home last night, Rosa said quietly. And you're still wearing your work clothes. What happened, Mija? Emma set down her purse and collapsed into the chair across from her mother. The lie died on her lips before she could speak it. She'd never been able to lie to her mother. I got fired. Rosa's face went very still. Tell me. So Emma told her everything. The spilled water, Donovan's cruelty, her own outburst. As she spoke, she waited for her mother's disappointment, her anger, her fear. Instead, Rosa reached across the table and took Emma's hand. Good, Rosa said firmly. Emma blinked. What? Good. That man needed to hear it. You think I raised my daughter to let rich men walk all over her? To smile while they treat her like dirt? Rosa squeezed Emma's hand. I'm proud of you. Mama, I lost my job. How are we going to pay for your treatment? How are we going to? We'll figure it out. We always do. Rosa's eyes were fierce. But I won't have you losing yourself to keep me alive. Your dignity is worth more than any job, any money. You understand me? Emma felt tears sliding down her cheeks again. I'm scared. I know, baby. Me too. Rosa stood slowly, her movements careful. The cancer had spread to her bones, making every motion painful. But we're fighters, you and me. We don't give up. Now go shower and sleep. When you wake up, we'll make a plan. Emma wanted to believe her mother, wanted to borrow some of that fierce strength. But as she stood in the shower, letting water wash away the previous night, all she could think about was Alexander Donovan's cold eyes and the way he dismissed her entire existence like she was nothing. She slept fitfully, dreaming of drowning in bills and waking to find her mother gone. When she finally dragged herself out of bed around 2 in the afternoon, her phone was exploding with messages. 37 texts, 12 missed calls and counting. Most were from Sarah. Emma, call me right now. Seriously, call me, this is important. Why aren't you answering? Emma, I swear to God, pick up your phone. With trembling fingers, Emma called her back. Sarah answered on the first ring. Finally. Where have you been? I've been trying to reach you for hours. I was sleeping. Sarah, I really can't talk right now, I need to start looking for. Shut up and listen to me. You need to get down to the Silver Spoon right now. Emma's stomach dropped. Why would I go back there? Gerald probably has security ready to throw me out if I show my face. Because after you left last night, we found something. Emma, Donovan left an envelope on his table. It had your name on it. The world tilted slightly. What? Your name, Emma. Written on the outside of a sealed envelope. Gerald opened it this morning and lost his mind. He's been trying to call you too. Check your missed calls. Emma pulled the phone away from her ear, scrolling through the calls. Sure enough, 3 were from the Silver Spoon's main number. What was in the envelope? Emma asked, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know exactly. Gerald wouldn't let any of us see. But Emma, whatever it is, it's big. He went completely white when he opened it. Started making phone calls to the owner, to his lawyer, I don't even know who else. He's been pacing the office for hours. You need to get down here. Sarah, I can't just. Emma, trust me. Whatever's in that envelope, it's important. Gerald specifically said he needs to speak with you immediately. Please just come. 20 minutes later, Emma stood outside the Silver Spoon, her heart hammering against her ribs. The lunch service was in full swing, but she didn't go through the main entrance. Instead, she went around to the staff entrance, the same door she'd walked through hundreds of times before yesterday. Gerald was waiting for her in his office. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, tie loosened, hair mussed, dark circles under his eyes. When Emma entered, he stood up so quickly his chair rolled backward and hit the wall. Miss Martinez. Thank you for coming. His voice was different too. No longer sharp and condescending but careful, almost nervous. Sarah said you needed to see me. Yes. Please sit down. Emma remained standing. If this is about apologizing for firing me, save it. I said what I said, and I meant it. It's not. Gerald ran a hand through his hair. This isn't about an apology, though for what it's worth, perhaps I was too hasty. This is about something else entirely. He picked up an envelope from his desk, thick, cream-colored paper, expensive. Emma's name was written across it in bold, masculine handwriting. Emma's mouth went dry. What is it? I don't know if I should be the one to tell you. Perhaps you should just read it yourself. Gerald held out the envelope, but his hand was shaking. Miss Martinez, whatever happens next, whatever this means, I want you to know that the Silver Spoon had nothing to do with it. We were completely unaware. Unaware of what? Emma's voice rose. Gerald, you're scaring me. What's in the envelope? Gerald set it on the desk and stepped back, as if afraid to touch it any longer. It's a check. From Alexander Donovan. Made out to you. Emma stared at him. A check? Like, an apology payment or something. Because if he thinks he can just buy. It's for $5 million. The words hung in the air like smoke, impossible and suffocating. Emma was certain she'd misheard, that her exhausted brain was playing tricks on her. What? $5 million. Gerald's voice was barely above a whisper. Along with a letter. I only read the first few lines before I realized I shouldn't be reading your private correspondence. But Miss Martinez, this is serious. Very serious. You need to read what he wrote. Emma's legs suddenly felt weak. She sat down heavily in the chair across from Gerald's desk, staring at the envelope like it might explode. This doesn't make sense. Why would Alexander Donovan give me $5 million? Is this a joke? Some kind of sick prank? I thought the same thing. I called my bank manager, he's a personal friend, and asked him to verify the check. Miss Martinez, it's real. It's drawn on Donovan's personal account, and the funds are there. If you deposit that check, it will clear. Emma reached for the envelope with numb fingers. Her name looked strange written in Donovan's handwriting. Too personal, too intimate. She opened it slowly, half expecting it to be empty, for this whole thing to be some elaborate hallucination brought on by stress and sleep deprivation. But there it was, a check from Chase Bank, Alexander Donovan's signature scrawled across the bottom, the amount written in both numbers and words to avoid any confusion, $5,000,100. Beneath the check was a letter, written on the same expensive paper in the same bold hand. Miss Martinez. By the time you read this, you will have already decided I'm either crazy or cruel. Perhaps I'm both. You certainly made it clear last night what you think of me, and I can't say your assessment was entirely wrong. I've spent 12 hours thinking about what you said. That's approximately 12 hours longer than I've spent thinking about anything beyond business in the past 5 years. You called me cruel, and you were right. You implied I'd forgotten what it means to struggle, and you were right about that too. I don't know you, Miss Martinez, but I know your type. I was you once, a lifetime ago, working multiple jobs, drowning in bills, watching someone I loved suffer while I felt powerless to help. I clawed my way out of that hole through ruthlessness and single-minded ambition, and somewhere along the way, I forgot what it felt like to be at the bottom. I forgot what it meant to be invisible. Last night, you made me remember. This money isn't charity, and it's certainly not an apology. I don't apologize for who I am or how I conduct my business. Consider it a reminder, to both of us, that everyone's fighting battles we can't see. You said you work 80 hours a week to pay for your mother's cancer treatment. No one should have to make that choice. The money is yours, no strings attached. Use it for your mother's treatment, for your own education, for whatever you need. I've instructed my lawyers to ensure there are no legal complications. This is a personal gift, taxed and processed appropriately. You won't owe anything to anyone. I have only one request, though you're free to ignore it: don't quit fighting. The world needs people like you. People who speak truth to power, who refuse to be invisible, who care more about integrity than security. The world has enough people like me. One more thing. Your former manager, Gerald Thornton, will be offering you your job back if you want it, with double your previous salary. I've made it clear to the restaurant's owner that your termination was unjust. Whether you accept is entirely up to you. I don't expect to hear from you again. In fact, I think it's better if we never cross paths. Some encounters are meant to be singular, a moment of clarity in an otherwise dark world. Thank you for reminding me what I'd forgotten. Alexander Donovan. Emma read the letter 3 times, her hands trembling so badly the paper rustled. Her mind couldn't process what she was seeing, couldn't reconcile this letter with the cold, dismissive man from last night. $5 million. Her mother's treatment, all of it, would cost maybe $300,000 total. She could pay off every medical bill, every student loan, every crushing debt that had been strangling her for years. She could quit working herself to death. She could finish her nursing degree. She could breathe. Miss Martinez? Gerald's voice seemed to come from very far away. Are you all right? I don't understand, Emma whispered. People like him don't just give away $5 million to waitresses they insulted. I don't understand it either, Gerald admitted. But Miss Martinez, Emma, whatever his reasons, that check is real. And yes, I am offering you your position back, with a substantial raise and a formal apology for my behavior last night. I was wrong to fire you. I should have. I need to go. Emma stood abruptly, clutching the envelope. I need to think. I don't know what I need. Of course. Take all the time you need. My offer stands whenever you're ready. Emma walked out of the Silver Spoon in a daze, the envelope burning in her hands like a live coal. She walked for blocks without seeing where she was going, Donovan's words echoing in her mind. I was you once, a lifetime ago. Thank you for reminding me what I'd forgotten. What had she done? What had she unleashed with her moment of honest anger? She found herself at Mercy General Hospital, the place that had become a second home over the past 2 years. She didn't remember deciding to go there. Her feet had simply carried her to the place where her mother's battle was being fought. Emma found her mother's oncologist, Dr. Patel, in her office between appointments. Emma. I wasn't expecting to see you today. Is everything all right? Emma held out the check with shaking hands. If I gave you this, if I could pay cash, how much treatment could my mother get? Dr. Patel took the check, and her eyes widened. She looked up at Emma, then back down at the check, then up again. Emma, where did you get this? It's a long story. Just tell me, could you save her? If money wasn't an issue, could you actually save her? Dr. Patel set the check down carefully, as if afraid she might damage it. Emma, with this kind of funding, we could try the new immunotherapy protocol I mentioned. The one that's been showing remarkable results but isn't covered by insurance. We could combine it with targeted radiation, maybe even get her into the clinical trial at Columbia that's been having breakthrough results. Yes, Emma. With unlimited resources, your mother's prognosis improves dramatically. I'd give her a 70% chance of full remission. 70%. Emma had been living with a 20% chance for so long that 70 felt like a miracle. Start the treatment, Emma said. Whatever she needs. Whatever gives her the best chance. Money is no longer an issue. Dr. Patel smiled, really smiled, not the carefully professional smile Emma had become used to. I'll call the team together this afternoon. We'll have a treatment plan ready by tomorrow. Emma left the hospital feeling like she was floating, like gravity had lost its hold on her. She took out her phone and, before she could second-guess herself, searched for Alexander Donovan's office number. His secretary answered on the second ring. Donovan Industries, how may I direct your call? I need to speak with Alexander Donovan. I'm sorry, Mr. Donovan doesn't take unsolicited calls. If you'd like to. My name is Emma Martinez. Tell him I'm calling about the envelope.
There was a long pause. Please hold. Emma waited, her heart pounding. What was she doing?
Donovan had said he didn't expect to hear from her again, that it was better if they never crossed paths. But she couldn't just accept $5 million and walk away without at least trying to understand why.
Miss Martinez.
Donovan's voice was exactly as she remembered, cold, controlled, with an undercurrent of something she couldn't quite identify. I didn't expect to hear from you. You wrote me a letter. You gave me $5 million. Did you really think I wouldn't call?
I hoped you wouldn't.
I meant what I wrote. Some encounters are better left as singular moments. Mr. Donovan, I don't understand why you did this. People don't just.
Yes, they do. I did.
The money is yours, Miss Martinez. There's nothing to understand beyond that.
But there is.
You said you were like me once.
What did you mean?
There was a long silence on the other end of the line. When Donovan finally spoke, his voice was different, softer, edged with something that might have been pain. My mother was a housekeeper. My father was a line cook. When I was 14, my mother got sick, same as yours.
Cancer.
We didn't have insurance, didn't have money, didn't have anything except debt and desperation. I watched her die slowly over 3 years because we couldn't afford the treatment that might have saved her. I worked every hour I wasn't in school, and it wasn't enough. It was never enough.
Emma's throat tightened.
I'm sorry.
Don't be.
It made me who I am. After she died, I swore I'd never be powerless again. I'd never watch someone I love suffer because of money. I built an empire from nothing, Miss Martinez. Clawed my way up from poverty with blood and ruthlessness and a complete disregard for anything except winning. And somewhere in that climb, I forgot what it felt like to be that 14-year-old boy, working 3 jobs and failing anyway. So last night you reminded me. You stood there in your worn apron, exhausted and desperate, and you refused to be invisible.
You fought back.
And for just a moment, I saw myself as I was before I became this.
He paused.
I didn't like what I saw. The money won't change who you are, Emma said quietly.
No.
But maybe it will change who you become. You have a choice I never did, Miss Martinez. You can save your mother without losing yourself in the process. Without becoming hard and cruel and empty.
Take the gift. Use it.
Become something better than I did. I don't know how to thank you.
Don't.
Just promise me one thing.
What?
When you make it, when you finish your degree, when your mother is in remission, when you're standing on the other side of this nightmare, promise me you won't forget what it felt like. Promise me you'll help someone else the way I'm helping you. Not because you have to, but because you remember. Emma felt tears streaming down her face.
I promise. Good. Goodbye, Miss Martinez. Live a good life.
The line went dead before Emma could respond. She stood on the busy New York street, people rushing past her in both directions, and realized that her life had just split into 2 distinct pieces, before the envelope and after. She had no idea that Alexander Donovan was sitting in his office, staring at the phone with something like regret on his face. She had no idea that their paths would cross again, under circumstances neither of them could possibly predict. And she had no idea that the money she'd just accepted came with complications that would unravel both of their lives in ways neither of them could imagine. But for now, in this moment, Emma Martinez had hope. And sometimes, hope is enough to change everything. 3 weeks after the envelope changed Emma's life, she stood in the oncology ward of Mercy General Hospital and watched her mother laugh for the first time in months. Mija, you're fussing too much, Rosa said, swatting away Emma's hand as she tried to adjust the pillow behind her mother's back.
I'm fine. Better than fine.
Dr. Patel says the tumors are already shrinking. Emma felt her chest tighten with emotion. The new immunotherapy protocol was working, actually working. The combination of treatments that would have been impossible before Donovan's gift was attacking the cancer from multiple angles, and her mother's body was responding. The gray pallor had left Rosa's skin, replaced by a healthier color. Her eyes were brighter. She'd even gained back some of the weight she'd lost.
I know, Mama.
I just can't believe it's real. After so long thinking we'd run out of options. Rosa reached up and cupped Emma's face in her hand. God sent you an angel, baby. A strange, complicated angel in an expensive suit, but an angel nonetheless. Emma wasn't sure Alexander Donovan would appreciate being called an angel, but she didn't correct her mother. In the 3 weeks since that phone call, Emma had thought about him constantly. His words, his story, the unexpected gift that had saved her mother's life. She'd searched for articles about him online, trying to understand the man behind the cold exterior. What she'd found was complicated. Alexander Donovan was exactly as ruthless as his reputation suggested. He'd built Donovan Industries by acquiring struggling companies, stripping them down to their most profitable parts, and selling off the rest, often putting hundreds of people out of work in the process. He destroyed competitors, broken unions, and lobbied against regulations that would have protected workers' rights. The business journals called him a genius. The labor advocates called him a vulture. But Emma had also found other things: donations to children's hospitals that he never publicized, a foundation he'd started for cancer research that operated under a different name, scholarships for low-income students that bore no mention of his involvement. It was as if he lived two lives, the public monster and the private philanthropist, and he worked very hard to make sure only the monster was visible.
Emma.
Rosa's voice pulled her back to the present. Where did you go just now?
Sorry, Mama.
Just thinking.
About him.
Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. It's not like that. I'm just trying to understand why he did what he did. Rosa smiled knowingly. Maybe some kindnesses don't need to be understood. Maybe you just accept them and move forward.
But Emma couldn't move forward.
Something about the whole situation nagged at her, like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. Why had Donovan really given her the money? Was it truly just guilt and memory, or was there something else, something he hadn't said? She decided not to go back to the silver spoon. Gerald's offer of double salary was generous, but Emma had other plans now. With her mother's treatment covered and money left over, she'd re-enrolled in the nursing program at Columbia. She'd start classes in 2 weeks. For the first time in years, she could focus on building a future instead of just surviving. But first, she had a promise to keep. That afternoon, after leaving the hospital, Emma took the subway to the Bronx. She'd spent the past week researching local community centers and family shelters, looking for a place where she could make the kind of difference Donovan had asked her to make, helping someone the way he'd helped her. She ended up at Casa de Esperanza, a community center that provided services for low-income families. The director, a fierce woman named Carmen Rivera, met her in a cramped office that smelled like coffee and old paper. So you want to volunteer? Carmen asked, studying Emma with sharp eyes. What are your qualifications?
I'm a nursing student, Emma said.
And I want to set up a fund to help families pay for medical expenses they can't afford. Cancer treatments, emergency procedures, prescriptions, whatever they need. Carmen's eyebrows rose. That's ambitious. You have funding for something like that.
I do.
I want to start with $100,000 and see how many people we can help. Carmen set down her coffee cup with a thunk.
100,000?
You're serious?
Completely serious.
Someone helped me when I had nowhere else to turn. I want to do the same for others. Then you're either crazy or an angel.
Carmen smiled.
Either way, I'll take it. When can you start? Emma left Casa de Esperanza feeling lighter than she had in weeks. This was right. This was what Donovan had meant when he asked her to remember. She had the power now to change lives the way hers had been changed, and she wouldn't waste it. She was walking to the subway when her phone rang.
Unknown number. Hello. Miss Martinez?
This is Jennifer Chun. I'm an attorney with Morrison, Hart and Associates. I need to speak with you about Alexander Donovan.
Emma's stomach dropped.
What about him?
Not over the phone. Can you come to our offices tomorrow morning? It's urgent. I don't understand.
Is something wrong? Please, Miss Martinez.
Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock.
I'll text you the address.
The line went dead.
Emma stared at her phone, her earlier lightness evaporating. What could a lawyer possibly want with her? Had something happened to Donovan? Was there a problem with the money?
She didn't sleep that night.
She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario. By the time morning came, she convinced herself that the money had been a mistake, that somehow it hadn't been real, that everything was about to come crashing down. Morrison, Hart and Associates occupied the 40th floor of a gleaming tower in Midtown. The reception area alone probably cost more than Emma's entire apartment. She gave her name to the receptionist, who directed her to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Jennifer Chun was already waiting, a woman in her mid-40s with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She stood when Emma entered, extending her hand.
Miss Martinez. Thank you for coming.
Please sit. Emma sat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Your call yesterday scared me. Is Mr. Donovan all right? Mr. Donovan is fine, physically. Jennifer opened a folder on the table. However, there's been a complication regarding the money he gave you. Before I explain, I need to ask you some questions. First, have you deposited the check?
Yes. 3 weeks ago.
And you've already begun spending the money? Emma's throat went dry.
Yes.
My mother's treatment, some personal debts, and I've started a fund to help other families with medical expenses.
Why?
Is there a problem? Jennifer's expression softened slightly. No problem with your use of the funds. In fact, that's partly why I wanted to speak with you. Miss Martinez, are you aware that Alexander Donovan has a brother? The question was so unexpected that Emma just stared.
No.
I didn't know that.
Most people don't.
Marcus Donovan is 5 years younger than Alexander. Unlike his brother, Marcus has never worked a day in his life. He's lived off family money and made a career out of gambling, drugs, and causing problems. 6 months ago, Alexander cut him off completely, refused to give him another cent. I don't understand what this has to do with me. Marcus is claiming that his brother isn't mentally competent to handle his own finances. He's filed a lawsuit seeking to have Alexander declared incapacitated and to gain control of the Donovan family trust. As evidence of Alexander's alleged incompetence, Marcus is citing the $5 million given to you. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. He's saying Alexander was crazy to give me the money?
Essentially, yes.
Marcus is arguing that no rational person would give $5 million to a stranger without cause, and that this is proof of diminished mental capacity. If Marcus wins, he gains control of billions of dollars, and one of his first acts would be demanding that you return the $5 million.
But that's insane.